All right, so today we're going to take a look at circle bar graphs. Now the good news is you kind of already have seen a lot of this stuff, and it's just a lot of it's going to be a reminder, right? How to set up proportions, but you can obviously take data away from all kinds of different bar graphs, okay? So first thing we're going to do is just look at a couple examples, okay? We do need to have a quick reminder that everything is out of 100% when we're talking about circle graphs or anything like that. And they might not always give you the values. You might have to find the missing values, kind of do a little bit of legwork on that. So let's take a look at the first one, okay? A garden contains 50 plants. Now, of these 50 plants, it tells you a little bit of information. It says the number of tomato plants is twice the number of bell plants. So if bell is 16%, we know that twice that amount is going to be 32%. So there we go. We just figured that out. The number of cucumber plants is the same number as watermelon. So we now know that these two are equal, okay? Well, guess what? We can figure out how to find the rest of this really easy. So I got 12 plus 32 to get 44. And then 44 plus 16 is going to give me 60. Which means I have 40 left. And we know cucumber and watermelon are the same. So we got 20%. And if you look at it, it all kind of looks about what they should. So, doing legwork, being able to kind of figure out some things, you're going to have to be able to do that on some of it, okay? But now that we got this, it's talking about a garden contains 50 plants. So, if I want to figure out of 50 plants, I can set up proportions, okay? So like find the amount of squash and tomato combined. Well, I could make two proportions, or I could just figure out the percent of tomato and squash, which is 12 and 32, add it up to get 44. And now I'm going to just find 44%. Okay, 44% out of 100%. And I know that there are a total of 50 plants. So you can see here, part over whole, right? And I'm setting up a percent proportion. That's how I figure it out, right? We did this earlier this year. Now, there's several ways you can do this, but this one's relatively easy. I know that I'm going to divide by 2 to get to 50. So divide 44 divided by 2. And guess what? I get 22. And there's my answer. Okay. Find how many less bell pepper plants there is than tomato. Okay, well, how much less there is. Now remember, I could set up two proportions. Find tomato, find pepper, subtract the two, or I could simply just subtract the 2%, right? 32 minus 16 is 16. So that's how much less there is of bell pepper than tomato. So when I set up my proportion, I'm really looking for 16%. I didn't have to set up 2% or two proportions. Now that's out of 50, obviously, plants. So divide by 2. Divide by 2. It is 8 less. How many plants are squash, tomato, and cucumber? So instead of setting up 3 proportions, I'm going to add them all together. Squash, tomato is 44 plus cucumber, 64. So that would be 64% out of 100, and I have a total of 50. So divide by 2, divide by 2, and I'm going to get 32. So 32 less plants. So a lot of this is just setting up proportions. All right, let's take a look at another one. A survey was conducted to determine the types of occupations of 1,200 residents. So there's that number that we're looking for. That's our total. Okay. And you'll notice here that they don't tell us the government. Okay, it's not that hard though. We can figure this out. 25 is 50, 50 plus 30 is 80, 80 plus 15 is 95. That makes that 5%. Not hard, pretty easy. So, find the amount of residents who work retail and education combined. Okay, well, that means instead of setting up two proportions, I'm going to just combine their percents. Retail, education. That's going to be 40%. So I want to find out what is 40% out of 1,200. And you'll notice I set up a percent proportion. Okay. Now, this one, really easy. Times 12. So 40 times 12. It's going to give you 480. And it makes sense, right? 480 is not quite half of 1,200. And neither is 40 out of 100. How many more residents work in other than in government? Now, here's where you got to be careful. How many more? Well, obviously, other is 30, government is 5. So what's the difference? I got to subtract those two to find 25%. So my proportion, I'm looking at a 25%. And we know that there are 1,200. And from here, we can just solve. Times 12. 25 times 12, and we'll get our answer. So you kind of get the idea, right? Like this one, I'm not going to set up three proportions in retail, industry, and education, add them all up. Add them all up as percents first, and then you'll have one proportion. All right, now we're going to take a look at some bar graphs. You've probably seen bar graphs before. This one we did yesterday, okay, in our practice, but I kind of wanted to go over it. Nowhere does it tell you how many total people were surveyed, but you can figure it out. Look, how many people chose fish? 2. How many people chose lizard? 4. How many chose bird? 6. How many chose dog? 10. How many chose cat? 8. And now that you know how many they chose, add them all up. And in this case, you'll get 30 total. So sometimes they are not going to give you the total. You got to figure it out on your own. Okay? Now, obviously setting up a proportion, it's the same type of stuff as we just did, right? It says what percent chose bird, dog, cat. Okay, well, bird was 6, dog was 10, cat was 8. So we got 24, right? So 24 votes out of, we said 30. So we just need to find out what percent that is. Now, if you don't remember, we can set up a proportion, x over 100. Now, I'll be honest, I would simplify this problem, okay? I could divide both of them by, let's say, 3, okay? And I would get 10 over 8 and just do 10 times 10, 8 times 10, and I'd get 80, so 80%, right? Or, if you don't remember, you could also simplify that fraction to, let's say, 4 over 5, right? And then do top and bottom out. 5 divided by 4, you get 0.8. Move that decimal 2 times, 80%. So, up to you how you want to do that. All right. Let's take a look at, here's another one. This one you got to be a little bit more careful of, okay? Because they're having a bar graph, but they're going to use a key, right? That stands for standard, the light gray. The dark stands for premium, okay? So you do kind of have to figure out a little bit of the difference, okay? Pay attention to graphs like that. All right, now let's take a look at histograms. Histograms, okay, for these right here, what percent of senators were aged 50 to 59? You can see that right here. This is a bar graph, a histogram, that gives you more information. Basically, it's not telling you just 40 or 41. It's saying 40 through 49, 50 through 59, 60 through 69, okay? So it gives you a range, okay? So if I wanted to find out what percent of senators were 50 to 59, that's this section right here. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go, okay, well, that's at 30. Okay, so 30 out of, well, I got to figure out how many total there were. Well, there's 10. Okay, that's going to be 34. So we got 44 plus 30, that's going to be 74. 74 plus, I believe that's 21. That's going to give me 75, 95, and then this right here gives me 100. Well, that's easy. 30 out of 100 is 30%. Okay. All right, now let's take a look at stem and leaf. You might have seen this in 5th grade, but if not, let me run through it again. Basically, stem, think of it like a tree, right? It's the big part, like a branch, okay? So when they say 5, they mean 50 through 59, okay? And the leaf is the small portion that's coming off that branch, and that's the second number. So 50 is simply 50, right? This next one would be 59, so 59. There's another 9, so 59, 59. Right, this one's 6, 5. This one's 7, 2. This one's 7, 4. This one's 7, 6. So you get the idea, right? And I can make a big list of numbers if I wanted to. Okay. That being said, I can also find the median without doing all of that stuff. Okay. I want to find the median. Okay. Well, I have a list of numbers here, right? All the leaves are a list of numbers. That's 50. That's 99, right? And I can do first, last, 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 first, last. And we have 2 or just 7. Okay. Find the mode. Well, which one occurs the most? I have 59 twice here. And I have but there's 3 7s, so that's going to be 87. So 87 repeats 3 times, that's going to be my mode. Find the range. Well, the greatest is going to be here, 99, minus 50, and I'm going to get 49. What percent of bikes had tire pressure above 75 PSI? Now, here's where you got to be a little bit smart. What percent above 75? Well, if I come back and look at all of these that are above 75, I got 1 above 75, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I have 14 above 75, but 14 out of how many? What were the total, right? Well, that was 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So out of 20, so 14 out of 20, I can either, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to half this to get 7 and 10, and I know 7 out of 10 is 70%. So basically, you need to know how to set up proportions. It's kind of what this was. Review, make sure that we can find percents and all that kind of stuff from different types of graphs. All right.